We are Knots. On BBC Radio Nottingham and BBC Sounds.
Hi, I'm Robin De Silva, the founder of Niche Artefact, a non-profit community group that looks into championing the local talent of Nottingham. I started Niche Artefact in September of 2023 when I was running the now closed down gay bar called The Goat, when I saw a big gap in the community of Nottingham where there wasn't a space for creatives to really be themselves and shine and realise the magic that they have within themselves. I made it my mission to create the spaces that I wish I had when I was growing up. So I was quite creative from an early age. My brother was a graphic designer, so I inherited a lot of that when I was growing up. I was playing with Photoshop when I was like 5 years old, so that definitely came in handy into the future. I came to Nottingham because I was very much on my own when I was living down south. I unfortunately came from quite a broken family, so I needed somewhere to have a fresh start that wasn't so expensive, and London isn't exactly the best place to grow up if you don't have much going for you. So I had an opportunity to come up to Nottingham to come to university, and I've not looked back since. Niche Artefact Artist Showcases are a celebration of local Nottingham talent. So you can expect anything from painters to sculptors to aerialist burlesque acts to drag artists, performance artists, singers and poets. We cover every medium and we welcome any creative into our house. In this episode of We Are Not, you'll hear from a few of the artists and performers from Niche Artefact. Through their acts, you'll discover the impact their art has had on them and their community. I'm Robin, and you're hearing about Niche Artefact, which is a non-profit community group championing the local talent of Nottingham.
My name is Ro de la Monja. I was born and raised in Guadalajara, Mexico, and I've been living in the UK for 7 years, and I've been based in Nottingham for about 3 now.
And when did you get involved with Niche Artefact?
Well, I've been a part of Niche since the second Niche Artefact artist exhibit, which was Stage Exit, the Golden Age of Hollywood, which is a topic that was very near and dear to my heart. So I was very happy to be involved. I met Robin through friends, through Ray, actually, who will also be interviewed today. And we sort of had a really nice friendship. And then one night at karaoke, Robin heard me sing and he was like, "Hey, do you want to be a part of this?" And I said yes.
So tell me a bit more about how you perform and sing.
I went to uni for musical theatre, and so I have a very, very recognizable musical theatre sound to my voice. I do sing some pop stuff, some rock stuff. I like sort of adding my own sound to new and existing songs, but it can lend to very traditional musical theatre, or it can be something a little bit more edgy, but very musical theatre at its core, I would say.
So what kept you coming back to the Niche Artefact when you experienced it for the first time?
Well, I have lived now in, I want to say 5 countries, and I've left each country that I've lived in and every city that I've lived in those countries, trying to find community, trying to find my people, my tribe, or just a place where I could just exist without having to explain myself. And Niche Artefact was that and is still that, and I think will always be that. And I kept coming back because I felt a level of seen and a felt of belonging that I'd never felt before. So it just felt like I found my place. I found where I belonged. Not where I fit in, but where I belonged.
And from your experience in the past, you've not exactly been welcomed, and
No.
you've had a lot of closed doors in your face.
Yes.
And from the experience that we've had together, is that Niche Artefact has given you like that space
Absolutely.
and brought you out of its retirement, essentially.
I fought the good fight for a very long time. I graduated uni, moved back to Mexico, tried to make it there. And due to circumstances that, were out of my control, doors were closed and I couldn't progress. So then I moved to the UK and I auditioned for all of the big major musicals that would have me. And I just kept hearing the same thing over and over again. Either I was too fat or not fat enough, or too Mexican or not Mexican enough. There's a show that's on right now on the West End that has a predominantly Latino cast that told me that I wasn't Latino enough to be in the cast, but I was born and raised in Mexico, so I failed to understand why. The constant rejection, which, anybody who wants to be in the show business will tell you that rejection is just part of it and you have to get used to it. And I was, but I think if the rejection had been about my talent or the lack of, I think it would have been something that I could work on. I can't really work on the way I look, and I can't work on the place that I was born. It's also a very binary art, and being incredibly non-binary, I just never really fit because I wanted to sing all the girl songs, but that gets you automatically caught from any audition if you look like a man.
So as well as performing on the stage, what other roles do you have within Niche Artefact?
I perform on the live shows. Robin and you and I, co-host the Niche Artefact podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And I have also become one of the show producers. Luckily, we are incredibly just... The wealth of talent within Niche Artefact is insane. And we have some amazing people who have joined the live production show team. We really have created a team that I think would put a lot of other theatrical endeavors to not to shame, but like we're such a weird band of misfits that sort of got together, and now we're creating something that's so much bigger than all of us, but it's also thanks to all of us. And it's the thing that I've done a lot in my life, but this is the thing that I am the proudest of. And I always think it's incredible how much we do with how little we have at times.
How important is it for you to have a platform like this?
It is the most important thing. I had given up, if you will. I had retired from performing, and I had convinced myself that I would have been happy with anything, right? My professional career otherwise was sort of going okay. So I was like, well, I'll just go with this and I'll keep doing this and I'll be happy. And then I would just spend all my time at home singing and all my time at home looking at choreography. And I would have never found out that I could still do it. And more importantly, I could do it on my own terms if it hadn't been for Niche Artefact. And the opportunities that I've had because of being a part of Niche have been incredible. I mean, last year I headlined at Groovebox Pride, which is the first Pride event I've ever been a part of. And as someone who grew up in Mexico not being able to fully be themselves, I was never allowed to go to Pride. If you had told little me, you know what, it's going to be a bit rough, but in a couple of years, you're going to be headlining a Pride event. I get a bit emotional thinking about it because I think this part of my life in particular is all about like making little me proud. And I think they are. And that's insane.
You are listening to We Are Not on BBC Radio Nottingham. I'm Robin De Silva, the founder of Niche Artefact. You're hearing from a few of the performers and artists from our exhibits.
Hello, my name is Ray Piper and I perform as Milady Burlesque. I am a burlesque aerial vocalist, dancer, person. I wear a lot of hats. And yeah, I'm a little bit of a gypsy. I'm kind of from everywhere. So right now I'm living between quite a few places. So I live between Germany and the UK. But my mum is originally from Nottingham. And so my girlfriend also lives in Nottingham. So I've spent the last couple of years, I would say, sort of being back and forth between here a lot.
So how did you get into burlesque?
Almost entirely by accident, in honesty. So I was having a conversation with my girlfriend, actually, and she just happened to randomly say at some point, "Oh, I think you'd be really good at burlesque." And I went, "No, I've never really thought about doing that before." And then they said, "Yeah, you could sort of combine it with your aerial hoop work that you do and your dancing." And we didn't really think too much more of it. We just sort of chatted about it and was like, that was nice. But then there was this other sort of second random conversation. Well, I'm not even sure if it was much of a conversation, but basically Zoe sort of said to you, "Oh, Ray does burlesque." This was before I had ever done burlesque in my life. "Ray does burlesque. She should do it for you at Niche." And I was like, sure, why not? But really, yeah, then it became more a question of your belief in me and giving me an opportunity to explore and investigate that art form and create an act, or several acts now, from it.
I was completely unaware that you had no technical burlesque show or anything. It was so natural for you. And you had it straight away? No,
I've never worked in burlesque. I have worked as a stripper before. And actually, although burlesque is not stripping, and we're always very, very specific about that, it's a different art form. It owes a lot to strippers, and I think it's really important that we respect and understand the stripper's place within the art industry, because without that, there wouldn't be that feeding into burlesque and how we then change it and what we do with that as an art form.
Tell us more about the history of what you've done before joining Niche Artefact.
So I'm trained as a dancer and singer and actress and acrobat, and I've spent my whole life actually working in the theatre industry. I entered the industry professionally at 17. I've worked in London's West End, performing in musical theatre there. I've performed pretty much in a lot of countries, actually, so a lot of international work. I've danced as a principal dancer in Contemporary Ballet Company at places also including Sadler's Wells and the Royal Opera House. So I've been very fortunate to have quite an extensive theatrical career, and I still now obviously do dance, but not like I used to because I'm older. So unfortunately age caught up with me, and there were a few too many injuries to sustain working as an elite contemporary ballet dancer, because the demands on the body are absolutely wild. But I also work now as a choreographer, which is what I continue to do alongside my work for Niche Artefact. So within my choreographic work, I work across a variety of sort of theatrical genres, from opera to musical theatre and plays. And again, I work in various different places. So I've just finished choreographing an opera in Germany, actually. I've choreographed quite a few West End shows.
So as well as performing, what other roles and functions do you provide to Niche Artefact?
So like Ro, I'm part of the live stage production team. So as you said, obviously I perform within the show, but I'm also part of the group that helps produce the show. So that means really working together collaboratively in whatever capacity is needed. So that might be something as simple as providing a little bit of choreography, or thinking about the running order, pulling everything together, editing music, just everything really to get the show on the road. And I'm also very fortunate to be able to exhibit my art with Niche Artefact as well. And so, yeah, it's I feel like a spoiled child, really. I kind of get two for the price of one, because I'm part of the performance team and one of your artists.
So what is it that made you want to get involved with Niche Artefact?
If I hadn't have been in that little bar in Nottingham where we'd first met, and feeling comfortable and feeling like I had met a group of people who kind of really were super accepting and understood me. I don't think I would have got involved. If I'd have just read about it, say, for instance, on the internet, I might have looked at it and been like, oh, that sounds nice, but I probably wouldn't have done anything. Niche is very much about the way that it makes me feel. It's the one place where I feel I can truly be myself. I never feel judged. I feel completely accepted and I feel supported. But I also feel that it's a place where I can grow and develop.
We are Knots.
I'm Robin De Silva, the founder of Niche Artefact. We run art exhibits that showcase the talent from all around Nottinghamshire.
Hi, I'm Darren Varnum. I'm originally from Nottingham. I grew up in St Anne's, quite near to town. I still live there actually now. I work in Hockley. I own a hair salon. I studied art and photography when I was younger. I always knew I wanted to do something creative, but I decided to go into hairdressing because I wanted to make some money. And then later on in life, during lockdown, I started back doing my artwork because I couldn't open my salon, and quickly started selling portraits and doing commissions. And then it's just got me back into my art, which I absolutely love.
How would you describe your art?
I do mainly portraiture, but it's slightly abstract, but it still needs to look like the person. A lot of it's mainly black and white, but I can work in colour. The stuff that I do with Niche Artefact is more what I actually want to do rather than painting people's pets, which I don't mind doing, but it's not really my forte, but I can do it. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I do. But I like to create concepts with it. I do a lot of stuff. I always try and find a queer element with whatever the subject is with Niche if I can. Sometimes it's easy when it's a queer, like pride, or things that it's a queer element in it anyway. But if not, I will try and find one. Just because I find it interesting researching things and creating some kind of concept, or if it's not queer, then something maybe a little bit political.
So tell me about the work that you've done for Niche Artefact and continue to do so.
Yeah, I just started on the Hollywood. The first one was the Hollywood one. I've just kind of, like I say, I've just kind of got involved with that and wanted to try and bring some kind of queer element to what I was doing. And I've just tried to do that with the art on every single kind of thing that we've done. I wasn't aware in the beginning that I would have to do public speaking. I was told that on the first night and thrown in at the deep end, which actually, after lockdown, I've lost a lot of confidence in general. In my main job, I speak to people all the time, and I've done a lot of shows with hairdressing and competitions and stuff. But Niche has just really brought my confidence out with my art and made me realise that I'm actually all right at it. And the public speaking thing has been really good to my confidence in general.
How would you describe your art style to somebody who can't be here right now to see it?
So a lot of it, like I say, is portraiture. But for an example, with the occult one, I did black women as in films portraying vampires, because it's mainly portrayed by white men. So I wanted to explore that kind of genre. I just always try and find like a little element of something different with each concept. I'd spend a lot of time doing the research and get these kind of zing moments, usually at 2 a.m, and then I wake up and tell Siri to remind me when I wake up in the morning, then just do as much research as possible. They do tend to just be, I've developed a style over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, and I would describe it as it's black and white. Sometimes if you look at it very close up, it can just look like marks, and if you look at it from a distance, you can see exactly who it is. So that's the main kind of concept of it, and then I try and develop a concept around that to fit in with whatever the theme is.
How important do you think Niche Artefact is to the wider community through your own personal lens that you've experienced so far?
I think with the lack of arts kind of funding, just in general, art and music in schools and, colleges and all sorts, there's a lack of it anyway. There's a lack of safe spaces for the queer community. This combines the two. It's just invaluable, really. And the support that you get from everybody in the group, the encouragement and empowerment that Robin gives everybody is just unbelievable. So I think it's completely important at the moment, more now than ever, because it almost feels like we're going a bit backwards with the queer community, the arts community. So it's really important to have these kind of events and spaces available.
And that very much leads to why I started it in the first place, which was I've been in Nottingham for about 13 years, so I remember what it used to be like years ago when there was more of a thriving queer community, and to watch it kind of condense to nearly hardly anything, and that's really sad.
I came out sort of late in terms of a lot of people, in my early 20s, in the early 90s in Nottingham, and you could literally go out every single night of the week. There was so many venues. There were events put on once a month that were huge. People would come from out of town. There was always something that was available. The bars and clubs they're not supported, like, for some reason. I don't think it's helped since social media and things like online dating and things like that hasn't helped. But yeah, it's completely different to when I first came out. And I do feel a bit kind of sorry for younger people that are coming through, especially with like the diversity now. And I get that people want this inclusion, and that's great when it works, but it doesn't always work. And when, we still get sort of intolerance within our own place, which is supposed to be safe spaces, and I've experienced it loads of times over the years. So it's just important to have these places where people feel safe.
You're listening to We Are Not on BBC Radio Nottingham.
I'm Robin De Silva from Niche Artefact. You're listening to We Are Not on BBC Radio Nottingham, and this episode is about the art exhibits we showcase here and the artists that perform.
I'm Danny Magic, drag artiste and member of the Niche Artefact family. Originally from Manchester, I've been living in Nottingham for just over a year and a half. And yeah, I'm loving it and love to be part of my wonderful Niche Artefact family.
So, when did you start doing drag?
I got dressed up in drag for the very first time in lockdown. I did one of the wonderful Zoom pub quizzes that everybody did in the first COVID lockdown, and I'd just been working on a TV show actually, where we got some comedians into drag, so I had lots of stuff left over, and thought, you know what, I love drag, I love everything about it. I'm going to do it. This feels like the perfect opportunity. Dressed up for a murder mystery pub quiz with some of my uni mates on Zoom, and that's kind of where it really began. But I didn't actually properly get into drag and actually step out of the house in drag until it was almost a year ago to the day actually, where I auditioned for Mr. Robin De Silva at the former gay bar The Goat, as one of the resident queens, and that's where my drag journey kind of really took off.
So tell us about the first time experiencing makeup.
So I really did not know anything about makeup prior to getting into drag the first time. I kind of did a lot of research online. As I said, I worked on this show with a lot of queens, so I had to do a lot of research into what went into it, making sure I had the right things for these comedians. So I kind of, it was lockdown, so I couldn't go into any shops, so I just did a massive bulk Superdrug order for delivery the next day. Had no idea about foundation shades or anything like that, so obviously the first foundation that I picked was way too pale for me. So putting that on, no primer on my face, so obviously all of my pores were all over the place, and no setting powder or anything like that. I had no idea what I was doing. I slapped this foundation on my face. I think I probably rubbed it in with my fingers like sun cream. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess, but it's all a learning process, darling. It's all a learning process.
And look at her now.
Just slightly better. I know how to use primer now and some setting spray. But the foundation, the tone for my skin will always be off. I'll never get that right. The magic of drag, I've learnt as I've kind of been doing it, is that there's no wrong answers with drag. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's all a process that you have to trust, because I know full well, even now, that I will look at myself in the mirror and think, my goodness, I look awful, until I slap on that wig and put on those false eyelashes, and then suddenly you're like, oh, actually I don't look that bad. But yeah, it's all a process, and there's no right or wrong.
So what was it about drag that appealed to you?
I came out quite late in life. I came out when I was 24. I'm almost 32 now. And I think I grew up around a lot of kind of not like full-on homophobia, but like kind of it was always there. It was the underlining kind of homophobia that most, I guess, LGBTQ plus people will kind of be aware of growing up. So I kind of avoided anything queer most of my life, and then when I kind of bucked up the courage to come out in my 20s, I didn't have any queer friends. I wasn't part of a queer circle, and so I felt like I'd missed out a lot kind of growing up. And I feel like when I did finally pull the trigger almost and say, do you know what, this is who I am, this is who I'm going to be, I kind of just went full throttle. It was kind of from 0 to 100, and there was no stopping me really. And I think I was kind of obsessed with RuPaul's Drag Race and anything to do with drag and queer art. I found so fascinating and so unbelievable, and I was like, I really want to try that, but I don't think I can try that. And I think moving to Nottingham, it was a completely different city. I didn't know anybody who lived here. I was moving with my partner who was doing his PhD. I had recently just decided to leave a career that I'd been building for 10 years in television production. So I kind of felt I was at a bit of a crossroads. I didn't really know what I was doing with my life, where I was going. It was a bit of a dark time, and I felt as though a way in of kind of my new surroundings would be to maybe try my hand at doing drag properly, and just as a way more of a way to just kind of meet new people and make new friends almost. And I remember seeing the advert on Facebook that Robin had posted looking for drag queens, and I was like, who am I kidding? I've never even stepped outside of my bedroom in drag, let alone stand on stage and perform. And I thought, you know what, I blew caution to the wind, and I was like, I'm just gonna drop him an email and I'm gonna audition. And then I got a text from him, and it was in 3 days' time, this audition. He sent me loads of different time slots, and I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. What am I doing? And I turned to my partner, I said, I can't do this. I'm being ridiculous. And he said, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I was like, I make a complete and utter fool of myself. And he was like, yes, and I was like, yeah, you're right. What happens? And you know what? Since doing that, I mean, it was the best decision I've ever made. And, you know, the worst thing that could happen is not making a fool of yourself, because I feel as though I make a fool of myself all the time. That's the fun of drag. It's not taking yourself too seriously and just making a right old fool of yourself. And from there, I've just not stopped, and I found so much inspiration from all of the other wonderful people that I perform with, all of the artists that are part of Niche, and it's really kind of opened a whole new part of me that I'm continuing to love to explore, and I just feel like I've almost found a place for myself in Nottingham, and I never even thought that would be the thing.
And can we just take a moment to appreciate that you took a chance on that moment, and look where it's taking you now, where you're performing on stage with a house, essentially, and all from one chance encounter at a bar in Nottingham, responding to an email. It's like a
pinch me moment almost. Sometimes I think about it and I'm like, oh my God, this is really my life. And I absolutely love it. And I'm so forever grateful for everything that Robin and Niche has done for me and given me these opportunities. It's incredible.
And it's just been announced that we're going to be headlining at Pride this year. We have a half an hour slot on the main stage. So that's just like the most amazing feeling to be able to give these performers that space.
You're listening to We Are Not on BBC Radio Nottingham.
I'm Robin De Silva, the founder of Niche Artefact, and you're hearing from a few of the performers and artists from our exhibits. Gabriella Lo Scalzo has made art and has been used for the exhibits to move her career along. So talk me through some of your work at these exhibits.
So I typically always try and do MDF pieces. So I cut them out in like unique shapes and stuff. I did do one paper piece though. I always like try and like do something a bit funky, like quite cartoony and illustrative. I might occasionally do more painty stuff, but I always try and keep them quite fun and stupid and a bit camp.
Talk us through the last piece that you exhibited for our Studio 54 themed show that we did.
Oh yes, so lots of disco themes. So I did this. It was inspired by one of Donna Summer's album covers where she's on a crescent moon. So I did her. But it wasn't Donna Summer, it was like a woman that had the same position. Big afro hair, go-go boots, like very disco themed. I put disco towels all around the edges, put glitter all over it as well. Just wanted to capture that sort of party disco 70s vibe.
I think the real magic about the Gabriella Lo Scalzo pieces is that, like I always say, you can really test an artist by looking at their work and knowing it's from them. So with Gabriella, she always does like a MDF sculpture as a jump-off point, and then she adds paint and different materials onto that. That makes it very distinctly her own style. So what does your art mean to you?
Everything, really. I've always done it. I can't remember a time where I haven't done it. Even like when I was like started art foundation and then uni, I've just always done it, and I've always tried to use it as a way to express myself. I'm quite a quiet person normally, so I sort of it's how I sort of am a bit more like forthright, like the more feminist, like quite bold in your face sort of things when I'm not that in personality.
How has Niche Artefact impacted your career in arts?
It started giving me motivation to actually make art again. At the time where I started, I was doing sort of I was working but not really getting anywhere. But now it's sort of giving me motivation to start putting my art out there, and I started getting more confidence. And I eventually managed to get a job where I was doing my tattoo apprenticeship, which I'm still doing now. So it gave me that sort of push to not rot in my room and do things, basically.
How important are communities like Niche Artefact to you?
So important. I think just any space where there's an LGBTQ plus community that is so over the top and amazing and loving. I've never seen a group like Niche be it's just so loving. Never seen that in the art space. It's quite I'm so cool. It's quite, it's quite cliquey as well, but Niche isn't like that. And I think it's just so important to have spaces like that where it's very much everyone's involved. There's no exclusion. And I think that's just really cool.
So anyone out there that wants to get involved with you, to see your artwork, where would they go?
So I have 2 art accounts on Instagram. I have my tattooing account, which is Stabs by Gabs. And my regular art account is very pink, Art by Gabby Loscalzo. And that's where you can find me.
And we've always been very lucky that Gabriella has supported our Niche Artefact shows, so you're more than likely able to catch some of her artwork at one of our shows. Thanks for listening to this program about Niche Artefact. The next Niche Artefact will be on the 30th of April, 7 p.m. at Revolution de Cuba on Market Street in the centre of Nottingham. The theme for the next Niche Artefact will be Secrets of the Molly House, where all of our artists and stage performers will be exploring the themes of 18th century molly houses, which were a safe haven for queer people of that time period. You can find out more about what we do and how you can get involved on our website at nicheartefact.co.uk or follow us on Instagram and all social media.
We Are Not is a BBC Radio Nottingham production. Listen again on BBC Sounds.
On the BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker,
Play BBC Radio Nottingham.
and on your radio.
The sound of Nottinghamshire is